Hi folks, Job Lot Comics here. Look at this classic Jim Steranko cover on this issue of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's the S.H.I.E.L.D. Origin issue. Isn't that phenomenal? Hey, wait a minute. What the? That ain't the trade dress you were expecting. This is Amazing Stories of Suspense, which is an Alan Class reprint comic from the UK. It's also called Astonishing Tales. Why? I'll tell you why. Nobody knows. They just did that. So there you go. This is Alan Class comics that would be reprinting usually old sort of horror stories, you know, those short stories Lee Kirby and Leon Ditko used to do, in like not Strange Tales, Amazing Fantasy and all those kind of things, yeah, before Spider-Man arrived. Well, these books were hugely popular in the UK, and they were always in black and white, and they're just cheap reprints. But every now and then you would get something like this. You would go down to the newsagents and you would think, oh, I'm going to pick up an old creepy horror book, you know, and you would have your lunch money that you have obviously kept because you haven't bought your lunch, and you just thought, well, what I'll do now is I'll just buy comics. And then you would get this, and mind blown, completely mind blown, because we had never seen this sort of thing before over here. We didn't know what we were looking at, or you know, where it came from. And the thing was, there was no sort of real, there was no continuity, and there was no reasoning behind these books or their scheduling or anything. It was just, you would, one week you would come down and you would get the likes of this, which would have like Nick Fury in it, and then you, if you were real lucky, you would get a Spider-Man issue or a Daredevil issue or a Fantastic Four issue. The reason this is hard to show you is because these are kind of square bound, and they're usually about 64 pages, and sometimes there would be 100 pages of reprint comics in one of these books, and it was like, they used to cost, how much did they cost? Like 10, 20 pence, which in America is about $18. But yeah, it was just incredible. So you never knew what you were going to get. Now, if I keep going through this issue here, you'll see this is what we usually got, these old Ditko and Lee, you know, those kind of short stories with a little twist in the tail, and it would always end up being, oh, I'm really an alien, or oh, you know, I come from another dimension. It was always like stuff like that. But every now and then you would get superhero stuff in it, which was incredibly exciting over here. Not just Marvel, because look at this, Mighty Comics presents the Web, and you would get this kind of stuff, and then sometimes you would get like the Agents of Thunder in here, or you would, you know, like No Man, was it No Man? You would get that kind of stuff, and we, like I said, in Scotland, especially back in the day, maybe down in London they got it, but in Scotland, in our small town, you would never see this kind of stuff unless you were lucky enough to get an Alan Class comic where they would be reprinting superhero stuff. And then it goes back to these kind of things. Now, if I go to the end of this book, Bomb Blast, wait till you see what else they've put in this. Look, Human Torch, Prisoner of the Wizard, Part 1. Isn't that amazing? It's from Strange Tales, I think, isn't it? So you just didn't know what you were going to get in these books. It was amazing. It was an incredible thing. Now, the funny thing is that these books are still quite collectible, and you can get them quite cheap, yeah, because they're usually low grade. Do you know why? Because these were bought and read and thrown away, and they were, sometimes if you were lucky enough, somebody would put them by. But every now and then, you know, you would get this kind of reprint in it. Now, these issues here are actually much more valuable. I'm going to interrupt here to say subscribe to the channel. Hit that button. See the button down there? Hit it and subscribe. So yeah, there's issues of these ones here, and there's lots of companion comics in this line. Here they are here, Suspense, Sensitive, Creepy Worlds, and Secrets of the Unknown, Uncanny Tales, right? So see, they would just reprint anything in these books, and every now and then they would do like a real key. So there's an issue, I think it's Creepy Worlds, where they reprint First Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four, and that book, even though it's a cheap black and white UK reprint, goes for fortune. And then even these kind of ones here, these don't go for fortune, they might be $20, which in America just now is about $800. So yeah, these are much more expensive than just the normal kind of reprint ones with just the short stories in it. So these are Alan Class comics. Are you interested in them? If you are, let me know. And if you've ever picked any, or you've got memories of picking these up, yeah, just let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, you lot. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all in the next one.